The company that saved the music industry from collapse is now the same one that many artists blame for gutting their careers. In 2001, at the height of illegal downloading, global recorded music revenue was over $23 billion. By 2014, it had cratered to less than $15 billion. The industry was in a death spiral. Today, revenues are higher than they've ever been, topping $28 billion. Yet, a musician now needs over 4 million streams a year just to earn the equivalent of a full-time minimum wage job. How can the industry be richer than ever, while the majority of its creators are earning less? The answer lies in a single, brilliant, and brutal strategy. To understand this paradox, we have to go back to the early 2000s. The internet, led by platforms like Napster, had shattered the music industry's business model. The concept of paying for an album was dying. Why buy a $12 CD when you could download any song in the world for free? For over a decade, the major record labels fought a losing war. They sued grandmothers. They implemented restrictive software. Nothing worked. They were trying to sell a product, a physical CD, a digital file, in a world that no longer valued ownership. Then, in 2008, a Swedish startup called Spotify launched with a radically different idea. It wasn't about ownership. It was about access. Spotify's platform created the blueprint for the modern music economy. It successfully convinced hundreds of millions of people to pay for music again. But in doing so, it re-engineered the very definition of value in music. So how did Spotify's model pull the entire industry back from the brink of extinction, while simultaneously creating a system that many artists claim is unsustainable? That is the question we are answering today. Daniel Ek, the founder of Spotify, understood a fundamental truth that the record labels refused to accept: you cannot win a war against free. The only way to compete with piracy wasn't through litigation, it was through a superior user experience. Pirating music was free, but it was a hassle. You had to search for files on sketchy websites, deal with mislabeled tracks, poor quality rips, and the constant risk of viruses. It was disjointed and unreliable. Spotify's strategy was to make legal streaming so seamless, so effortless, that piracy would become the inconvenient option. Their value proposition was simple: every song in the world, on any device, instantly. The platform was fast, the library was comprehensive, and the discovery features were addictive. They created a service that was simply better than stealing. To make this happen, Spotify had to negotiate with the very record labels that were terrified of this model. The labels demanded huge upfront payments and a significant share of revenue. They were skeptical that a freemium service, offering a free, ad-supported tier, wouldn't just cannibalize their remaining sales. But with revenues in free fall, they were out of options. They reluctantly signed the deals, and Spotify had its legal library. The strategy worked. Over the next decade, Spotify's user base exploded, converting millions of pirates into paying subscribers or ad-supported listeners. It created a new, predictable, and growing revenue stream. The industry was saved. But the cost of this salvation was hidden in the fine print of how the money was actually distributed. This brings us to the core of the issue: the payment model. When you pay your $10 a month for a Spotify subscription, you might assume that money goes directly to the artists you listen to. That is not what happens. Instead, Spotify uses a system called Pro Rata, or the Big Pot model. Here's how it works. First, all the subscription and advertising revenue from a specific country and user tier for that month is collected into one giant pot of money. Second, Spotify takes its cut, which is roughly 30%. This covers their operational costs, technology, salaries, and profit. The remaining 70% is the royalty pot, which goes to the rights holders. These aren't just the artists. A single song has multiple rights holders: the record label, the publisher, the songwriter, and the master recording owner. The artist is often the last in line to get paid. But the crucial step is how this royalty pot is divided. It's distributed based on an entity's stream share. If all the songs by a single record label, say Universal Music Group, accounted for 30% of all streams on the platform that month, Universal gets 30% of that massive royalty pot. If an independent artist accounted for just 0.001% of all streams, they get that same tiny fraction of the pot. This is the system's critical feature. Your individual listening habits are irrelevant. Even if you only listen to one small, independent artist all month, the majority of your $10 subscription fee does not go to them. It goes into the big pot, where it is primarily distributed to the rights holders of the world's biggest superstars, Taylor Swift, Drake, Bad Bunny, because they command the highest percentage of total streams. This system is what allowed Spotify to get the major labels on board. It ensured that the biggest players with the largest catalogs would receive the lion's share of the revenue, reflecting their market power. But in doing so, it fundamentally broke the link between a fan and an artist's earnings. With over 100,000 new songs uploaded to Spotify every single day, the platform faced a new problem: discovery. How does anyone find anything in an ocean of infinite content? The answer was the algorithm. Spotify mastered algorithmic curation through its powerful playlisting ecosystem. Playlists like Discover Weekly, Release Radar, and editorial flagships like Rap Caviar or Today's Top Hits became the new radio. Getting a song placed on one of these playlists can be the difference between obscurity and a global hit. This gives Spotify unprecedented power as the new gatekeeper of the industry. But this power comes with a side effect. The algorithm's goal is to maximize user engagement, to keep you listening for as long as possible to serve you more ads or keep you subscribed. To do this, it learns what musical characteristics are least likely to make a user hit skip. Studies have shown that songs optimized for streaming often have shorter intros, get to the chorus faster, and adhere to predictable structures. This creates a powerful feedback loop. The algorithm promotes songs with these stream-friendly traits. Artists and labels, seeing what works, are incentivized to produce more music that fits the algorithmic mold. While this is not inherently bad, it risks creating a musical landscape that is less diverse and more homogeneous, where everything is optimized for passive consumption rather than active artistic expression. The algorithm, designed to solve the problem of choice, ended up creating a new system that concentrates attention, and therefore revenue, on an even smaller number of tracks that fit its preferred model. And that brings us to the central insight. Spotify's strategy was never just about selling music. It was about fundamentally changing consumer behavior. They had to solve the problem of piracy, and they did it by replacing the value of ownership with the value of infinite access and convenience. To achieve this, they had to create a payment model that would satisfy the major labels who owned the rights to the majority of the world's music. The pro-rata system, the big pot, was the only way to get them to sign on. So the mechanism that underpays smaller artists wasn't a flaw or an oversight. It was a foundational feature of the entire model. The very system that saved the industry by aggregating all listening into one massive, monetizable pool is the exact same system that now funnels the vast majority of that money to a tiny fraction of global superstars. Spotify didn't just build a music app, they built a new economic engine for an entire industry. They solved the revenue problem for the labels, but they created a scale problem for the individual creator. To succeed in this new world, you don't just need fans, you need hundreds of millions of streams to earn a living. The paradox is the model. If this breakdown is helping you see the music industry in a new light, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. We unlock strategies like this every week. The brilliance of Spotify's strategy is that it correctly identified the true enemy, not piracy, but inconvenience. By creating a product that was superior to the free alternative, they retrained a generation of consumers to value access over ownership. It's a masterclass in shifting a market's core value proposition. The broader business principle here is the fundamental tension between a platform and its creators. Platforms, whether it's Spotify, YouTube, Uber, or Airbnb, create enormous value by aggregating supply and demand. But they often do so by commoditizing their individual suppliers. The artist, the driver, the host, they are all cogs in a larger machine. The platform's success depends on having millions of them, but the economic model rarely allows the majority of those individuals to capture a significant portion of the value they collectively create. Spotify both saved and broke the music industry because it replaced an old system, where value was tied to a unit of sale, with a new one, where value is tied to a microscopic share of global attention. If you learned something new, hit the like button and subscribe for more strategy breakdowns. And let us know in the comments, what company's strategy should we unlock next?